Morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Hello, welcome to Monday. It is Monday, January 9th here for yet another update. And last week we had a pretty strong close into the end of the week. So we had a strong pop off the NFP numbers. NFP numbers. I didn't even trade that event, right? I had a lot of difficulties, but if we take a look at the FOMC probabilities, right, to the FOMC countdown, our next update is, or our next rate decision is going to be February 1st, I do believe. And I just want to start off by looking at that. Like, there's nothing too much to talk about here, as it is Monday. We have a lot of data coming out. I'm going to talk about that inflation data, CPI, and as it stands, right, 77% expectation of a 25 basis point hike to come in February 1st. There's almost about a month until we get that data realistically. So a lot can change within that time. So I wanna take a look at some of these other numbers. Right, we had the NFP last week into Friday. Those numbers came out. Let me just take a look here. The non-farm employment change, right, 223,000 versus 200,000 expected. We got an initial drop from that because naturally you would think that once you have a stronger economy, you're going to be able to stress test higher rates, and that's the Fed's goal pretty much this year. So that's one thing to consider. But the main thing that we do want to talk about this week is going to be the CPI data that comes out on Thursday. Right, we have Jerome Powell that talks on Tuesday, but the CPI data is what we are expecting. Right, CPI year over year expected at 6.5% versus 7.1% previous, and there is, right, a expectation that we are cooling off and inflation is cooling off. But of course, you're going to have, it is more of a laggard to see how these things do affect prices and how the Fed's rates actually do affect prices. So everyone's going to be watching this. Thursday comes out at 8:30 a.m. here pre-market, and it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of shapes up and what we get from that. Realistically, those data points are probably going to be faded into the session. But if we get a stronger print, which is kind of what's shaping up, right, there has been a lot of buying coming into the end of last week, and I think there could be a lot of buying coming into this week, the beginning as well. We gapped up slightly in the futures, and we're still running. I think that is going to be a kind of precursor to the expected market movement from the CPI data, which is expected to drop off a little from the 7.1 to the 6.5 naturally. So I'm going to be watching that. I think it's going to get a little slower coming into that data point, which comes out Thursday pre-market. And other than that, there's not too much else to look at, right? We can take a look at some of these levels. It's going to be a very short update today. I wouldn't be surprised if it's at that 5-minute mark realistically, but very short update today looking at these futures levels. We did gap up last week. We managed to close the session above the very pivotal 3909 area, 3910 we could call it. Huge area. We can go from 3909 all the way to 3912. That's going to be a massive contributor to the bulls, right? We're going to see that buyers probably are going to buy those dips into those regions and see if they could actually sustain that region. Now, there's a very key level at 39.38, right? 39.38 is the top band right now, pre-market highs in and around that area that we've been testing for a decent bit of this morning session. But realistically, I think they're going to try to buy some dips. I don't know how deep the dips here this morning, but I am looking for a rebid above that 39.38 region because it can send us into the 50, and 63 is going to be a target on the session. I think that we rally into that CPI data and then kind of readjust the thinking from there. But I think into the 25, right, 39.25 region is the first area that I'm going to be watching very carefully here to see if those longs manage to pick that up. But realistically, I would like to look at 39.17 and 39.10 region. Those are going to be the better dip buys. I understand that is quite a ways away. We'd have to have a very significant drop for that to shape out. But realistically, that's what I want to see in this market, so I can actually look to buy some of those dips. It's a little harder to justify buying these highs right now coming into the pre-market session that we're going to be opening up in about like 25 minutes, 24 minutes time. So I think that it can play out like that, trap some of those late longs into the session here to start off, and then see if markets do try to pick up that rally. I think that's going to be the consensus today, looking for a little more of that long side. Just looking at some of these comments. Yeah, that's fair. Like I think the inflation numbers are naturally, I wouldn't say that they're very real in the US, right? There's some components that are missing, some components that shouldn't be calculated in that perspective. But I do believe it is higher than what the suggested number is realistically. But I'm just going off of the data that is given to us, right, and how the market's going to react based on that data. So those are the numbers that I'm gonna be looking at this week for CPI. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Usually, how these events go, we'll trade them in our live room. If you want to go check that out, check out tradeproacademy.com, where we're going to trade this event live with you guys, myself and Fatty. And typically, you get a really strong move in one direction, right? And it probably gets faded throughout the remainder of the session, which is something that I'm gonna be looking for. It's a little difficult to catch the original move, right, in that direction. So I do like to see them fail and actually get an opposite market reaction based on order flow to kind of drop this thing a little lower. So that's what I'm gonna be watching for this week. Not really much news right now. Jerome Powell coming out tomorrow. Not too much else to talk about realistically, and I hope those levels and ideas serve you well today. And very short update. We'll see you tomorrow, and thank you all.